War Eagle Auburn family, it's time for another live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast. This time it's episode 34. That's a significant number. We're going to jump into a lot of different Auburn topics, if I can talk, starting right now. War Eagle, everybody. War Eagle Austin. I've promised that I won't butcher talking on this podcast as much as I just did in that intro. So, what's up, buddy?
What's up? War Eagle to you, Kyle. Glad to be back after a busy week in the Auburn area and Auburn Experience world. Looking forward to getting into all of it, and I'm sure we've got some happy viewers tonight.
Oh boy, do we. We're going to be talking about a lot of good things this particular episode, and then just general discussions here at the start with you all. Obviously, as Austin alluded to, it was just, I didn't get a chance to come experience it myself, but there were a lot of things going on campus between graduations, sports, and otherwise. Apparently, bachelor parties for Austin, and all of that in between that gets involved into the Auburn experience. So we're going to get into it here. If you guys have any comments or questions that you'd like for us to address at the start of the show, you can go ahead and start posting those now. But go ahead and get started by posting where you're watching from, your city, your state, international if you're international, and with a War Eagle, and I know who's here hanging out with us. And we'll start recording here in just about a little less than 5 minutes. And during that time, we won't be taking a lot of questions, but most of you know the drill because most of you guys are pros at this point. Got some familiar faces popping in. Neil and Devin are here. Good to see you there. War Eagle, what a win for baseball today. Austin, are you genuinely surprised that we got the series win over number one LSU?
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, it's pretty remarkable run for this team with the past two series being the top two teams, not in the SEC. Yes, in the SEC, but not just in the SEC, in the entire country, in all of college baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And Auburn's taken 2 out of 3 from both of them.
Yep.
Not as surprised with LSU, even though they're the better team. But I mean, it was a busy weekend in Auburn and provided an avenue for people to come and experience this team and watch these games at Plainsman Park. So the atmosphere all 3 nights was incredible. And so it definitely helps. But what they did today by run ruling the number one team in the country to get a series win was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And that is a very talented team with multiple draft picks, multiple very high draft picks that will definitely do some damage on down the road, whether they run into Auburn again or not. So super impressive. And all I can say is, I mean, are we surprised at this point that Butch Thompson keeps
No.
finding a way to do this? No, you shouldn't be. I feel like this year more than others, he's had a lot of doubters, and he's had a lot of people kind of say, "All right, is his time come? Is he kind of run his course?" And he continues to get here late in the year and show you his teams know how to get it done. So it
Yeah.
was a very impressive.
Anytime I hear someone from now on even think about uttering a phrase like that, I'm just going to present to them his resume. Every time you think a Butch Thompson team is out of it, is down, use the term, it's a down year. It might be a down year, but that doesn't mean you're out of it. That doesn't mean that
Yeah.
he's not going to figure out how to squeeze the best that he can out of the pieces that he has available to him. And so I'm not shocked. It's a lot of the times when we be doing live streams here during the beginning part of the baseball season, and we get a lot of people coming on saying, I don't know, man. I just don't know about this team. I'm like, just wait. Just wait. I mean, I'm not saying we're about to go on a College World Series run, but this team ain't done yet. And lo and behold, you face the two best teams in the SEC right now. And just look what happens. It's absolutely outstanding. Kevin's here. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for popping in. LSU was 26-19-1. Wait. He says we are 26-19-1. Is that the right record right now?
We might be 27 now. I can't remember, but yeah, somewhere right around there.
Yeah. We probably won't spend a lot of time talking about. Can we just can we just mention that Alabama?
Can we change baseball to athletics?
Yeah, it is not a good week to be associated with University of Alabama as a whole, given other things that came out, trailers for certain you know,
Oh,
we'll say
yeah.
document. Did you forget about that?
Yes. When I saw that, I thought it was an
Made me
SNL
choke up.
skit. I thought it
No.
was fake,
Yeah, it's real, man. It's real, and
you
like it
know?
just couldn't it's it's a bad time to be associated with University of
Some
Alabama.
would
And
say it's the wrong place at the wrong time.
oh well,
Just don't bet on nothing else happening for the rest of the year.
what? We haven't even started recording yet, sir, and you're on fire. My goodness, save some for the show. Okay. Devin's a little confused. Essentially, just go look up what's been going on with Alabama's baseball
Just
coach.
Google it.
I think
Google
you
anything.
and then there's a documentary about, shall we say, Greek life at Alabama. That's going to be that they strategically decided to drop the trailer this week when a lot of other stuff was going. You can't tell me that wasn't a deliberate decision. They probably had that trailer sitting in the can waiting for the right time, and then they saw all the other bad press and discussions about Alabama and said, "Hey, man, we got to drop this thing now." I'm just saying.
If that's true, I don't know if it had the effect that they wanted of being more positive than everything else.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's interesting to watch what's going on in Alabama right now. So we're about to move into our recording time. Most of you know this. Help the people know. I'm actually not going to put the little ticker down below us this time. We're going to try not do that one this time. We haven't needed it for a while, but you guys just help moderate for us in there. We'll be back. I'll be back after the end of the show to hang out with you guys like normal. But we're going to jump into 3 separate segments: Auburn Potpourri, talk about the War Eagle flight, and then transfer portal. We've been putting it off long enough. We're going to talk
Dum,
about the
dum,
transfer portal. And
dum.
I know some good things to talk about there. So, kind of a comprehensive look at the spring transfer portal, specifically for football. We might hit some other things too in that. Austin, are you ready?
I'm ready.
And 3, 2, 1. David Housel said it best: the whole of the Auburn experience. That is what we're talking about each and every day here on this show, because it's about a variety of many things, all the different places, people, sports, and things. But at its heart, at its core, it's all about sports. It is all about our culture, and it is all about our family, the Auburn family. Because it is about family, I've got to have somebody here to talk with me, because this is all about family discussions and things like that. So back with me yet again, my co-host and good friend, and some 2 individuals call him daddy, apparently, Austin Scott, back in the show.
Thank you for that introduction, Kyle. War Eagle to you. There are people out there saying that this is the GOAT episode.
Yes.
This is going to
It
be the greatest episode of all time because it is episode 34.
is. It is
Bo
the one.
Jackson, Charles Barkley. I mean, this is the one.
This is it, man. I mean, should we just stop the show after this? Like, that's it? We can't ever attain
I
any other
mean,
greatness?
it can't. It there will be. We can keep going, and we will do fantastic things on this show, and we'll continue providing great content. But this episode is the GOAT episode, and there's nothing else that we can say that will take it away from that.
But now we've got a debate though about this whole number one debate, that Charles and Bo have all the time. I think really
Um,
it's just something that Charles likes to play up the entire time. And I loved being at the Frank Thomas opening the ceremony for the unveiling of the statue. He kind of talked about that whole debate of the who's the number
yeah,
one, and they tried to involve him in that. Look, it's all in good fun, but yeah, if you got 2 guys with 34 on them, obviously, our mind goes to Bo Jackson first. So I think that kind of dictates who number 1 is. But I mean, 2 of the best that's ever done it at Auburn and in both, well, really multiple sports with Bo being,
yeah.
baseball, football. And, I always often wonder if we could have gotten him into the Olympics for track and field, how much even bigger his legend might have been.
Oh, it would have been. It's hard to imagine it being bigger than it already is. But you're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Bo might let Charles think he's number one every now and then. Just let him for the sake of just giving him something.
Yeah, look, Charles is a big man. We got to give him something to help that ego be held up every once in a while. We
Yes,
love him.
right.
And I love him more as he's getting older too,
Yeah,
especially just seeing him on TV a lot and the way he's really helps promote Auburn. But he's a big man with a somewhat humble, but still a big ego that we can
that's
prop up
right.
every once in a while. So as we talk about some Auburn potpourri things before we move into the big topics tonight. I'd like to ask you, just off the cuff here, how are the twins doing? Since I guess I should have set the precedent when I said someone calls you daddy at the beginning of the show. That might have been a better way to start into this, so it didn't get a little awkward there. But how are the twins doing?
The boys are doing good. They're growing and eating and sometimes sleeping, and so it's been good. Another week has gone by. Hard to believe, but they're both over 7 pounds now, so they're growing pretty strong. They It was special this weekend. I got to host a bachelor weekend for a friend of mine from that I met while at Auburn. Has been one of those friends that that's gonna
Mhm.
be around for a long time, and I'm thankful that the Lord blessed me with him, but also that Auburn provided that avenue for us to all meet, and now provided us for all to get back together as we hung out this weekend. But it was special to get for them to get to meet them, and meet those guys as they're very important to me, and I hope that they'll be very important to my boys one day as kind of those de facto uncles that we sometimes have of friends who aren't really related but feel like family. So that was special this weekend, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing those friendships blossom. But all in all,
Yeah.
the boys are doing great.
Well, and you couldn't have picked a better weekend
Truth.
to have a special event like this, given some of the things that we're going to talk about, especially in that first big segment coming up here around Auburn baseball and a certain bird. Real quick though, let's a couple of smaller topics here, and one's a double dose of one sport, softball, and one's good and one's bad. But I do want to express condolences to head coach Mickey Dean of Auburn softball, who just lost his father this weekend, and still stayed and coached through the series. Um, I don't know how you did it, to be honest with you. I know what it was like losing my father, and it takes a lot of courage and a lot of fortitude to. I promise I'm not getting choked up because of that, but it would have been very fitting there. But yeah, my heart goes out to him, and I'm just impressed with the way his team responded for him winning the series, the last one of the regular season, and something big and important coming up here in just a second we'll mention. But obviously, you got to be impressed with what he and his team did this weekend.
Oh, absolutely, and I think Coach Dean has played a very big role and fit the Auburn atmosphere and culture really well since he came. And you know, we talk about the Auburn experience, and we can talk about the Auburn family at nauseum. And I think that certainly helped his case this weekend of kind of going through
Mhm.
something really tough. But it was a rallying for him to be around his team and his players and his coaches, and not take your mind off it because you don't want to say that he's forgetting about his father, but
Right.
also making sure that he surrounds himself with people that are being there and supporting him. And so even better that they got wins for him this weekend. And I'm sure that was really emotional for him. But congratulations to them, and a job well done.
Yeah, I've got to imagine that in some way it doesn't take away the pain of losing your father, but it does help knowing that you're surrounded by hordes of
Correct.
people that are obviously here for you in any given day, any given weekend series, but are here for you in an extra special way on an important weekend for you personally, but also for the team as well. And speaking of the good thing that we want to transition to, the season's over, and your Auburn softball team has kind of caught fire,
That's right.
much like the baseball team seems to be doing as well. It's kind of funny how these two things coincide a lot, and is now the number 3 seed in the SEC tournament. And a lot of people didn't expect them to be there. I
Yeah,
think it was Bree Ellis
it
post
was. Yep.
that where were they originally thought to be
Ninth.
in the preseason? Ninth?
Ninth. Yep.
And there are 13 SEC teams in softball because I think we don't have one. S-
Correct.
So that is well into the bottom half. So imagine that bottom half type of scenario is what you're expecting. How many times do prognosticators, media people have to pick against Auburn and then be proven wrong? Like, I'm just saying, it doesn't matter what the sport is. If you put us at the bottom, we're going to doggone it. We're going to make sure you look silly at the end of the team. It doesn't happen every year, but this year, I mean, I think a lot of the talent pieces were in place, and now all they did was, lay their heads down and go to work. And here we are, number 3 in the SEC tournament, and good position for postseason play.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we are well, I cannot remember the exact year, but we are, right at that point where these are Mickey Dean's players. He's got a full roster of those that he picked for his team, and it's showing. And it's you're right. It's very underrated how well Coach Mickey Dean has done and how well these players have done. Um, you know, I think we talked about a couple weeks ago the first series win in Tuscaloosa, and
Mhm.
ever, and then Alabama's the 5 seed. Not that's where you always base your metric, but I
Uh,
mean that's a team that is always play with the double bye, and
yep.
Auburn has that 3 seed, and we'll play the winner of LSU and Ole Miss on Thursday. But a really job well done that I think has snuck up on a lot of people, Auburn fans included, of how well this team is playing and how much further they can go. So,
Yep.
just really, really, really impressive. We already talked about the circumstances around it to make it kind of even more impressive for this team to
Right.
really focus on. But just impressive work and impressive job well done for this team. That I think we've had a lot of hills and valleys with the interest, right? The softball program got really
Yep.
hot there when they were making College World Series and playing for titles, and then kind of fell back in a lull while we rebuilt the program up, and it looks like things are on a steady spectrum right now. So really
It's
impressive, and looking forward to where they're headed.
Yeah, well, it's why I always preach patience. And
Yeah,
yeah, I think some people were losing patience with Mickey Dean for a little while there, but I think there were some circumstances, COVID and otherwise, that didn't necessarily play in anybody's favor. But when you're trying
that's
to
right.
rebuild something, it requires a little extra patience. You can see what happens at this point. Obviously, still don't know how this is going to play out, but so far, so good. And last thing here on the Auburn Potpourri segment, it's graduation weekend is
Yeah.
completed at Auburn amongst athletes, students alike. And I just want to wish a heartfelt congratulations, if we can, it's not overused, to every new Auburn alumni. Every single year this comes around, and I just go back into my feels, into my nostalgia of my time at Auburn, but also that day for me. And, we've told that story several times here on some format on E2C Network, and I'm sure we can find a weekend during off season to talk about those things again. But just want to wish a congratulations to all of the new graduates and welcome to a little special fraternity and sorority within the Auburn family. We're all part of the family, we're all part of the experience, but that these little subgroups and being an alumni, no, it is extra special. And we are happy to have those being a part of that now. Let's talk about our big topic number one on the night. Something that I think that was a humongous surprise this week. And no, it wasn't Auburn dominating in the final game of the series, LSU run ruling them to win the series and just shock I think, can we just be honest, Austin? The LSU fans are struggling with the notion that they got
Oh
beat.
goodness, are they? Mm,
Some social media shenanigans and discussions about class and things like that. And I shared with one particular LSU fan, buddy, I got a few dandies about your fan base if we want to start, having a measuring stick
yeah.
here.
Let's. I mean, let's not just scream the pot is black, the kettle's black. Let's just make sure that we're all take a step back, put down the phone for a minute, and take the emotions out of this, and realize what fan base we're talking about here. So,
Exactly.
but
We can
it's always sweet to be able to talk about these kind of things when you got 2 wins in your back pocket too.
Yes, obviously we're in the driver's seat right now in this
That's
type
right.
of discussion, right? So we understand there's a little soreness over there, there's a little happiness over here, a little unexpected happiness, not just for that, but for the big thing that we want to talk about. For the very first time, folks, and for the life of me, how has this never happened before? Like, it just seems like if there's any other sport that this could and should have happened at, logistics alone, it's Auburn baseball. Now, I'll be completely honest with you. I was actually talking with we need to have like a Bucky's jar every time we mention Bucky's, and then we need to have a Clint Richardson jar every time we mention Clint Richardson. I was talking with Clint this week before leading up to this, and we were just discussing, since I have a background not only volunteering at the Raptor Center, but for the majority of my adult working life, I worked with birds at a zoo and raptors too. Talked about the logistics of this, and I said, I can't for the life of me. It seems too simple to do what they ended up doing, but it obviously made the most sense. But I was just trying
Yeah.
to figure out like where they were going to come from, all these things. But the first War Eagle flight at Auburn's Plainsman Park for Auburn baseball game. What an incredible event. I am super sad that I couldn't make the justification for me to make a really quick trip down there. You got to witness it in person with your friends, as you already mentioned. And wow, what a cool and special moment. So, why don't I let you kind of give your perspective since you were there live and got to see and provided us even a shot of what was going on? I'd love to hear what it was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of those things. We had already planned to go to the Saturday night game, and be in attendance in the stadium, and then the news kinda broke Wednesday or Thursday, I think,
Did
and
you
it was
have
just
some inside knowledge on this?
0, had
I was about to
0
say.
inside knowledge, just it worked out that way, and,
Mhm.
it was awesome to be able to be there for it, but we were wondering the same thing. We got there early, we were all excited about it, and wanting to be there for it, and got there early in our seats, and we were kinda scoping things out. We're like, "Where are they gonna fly this bird from,
Right.
and how is it gonna go?" We're looking up at the parking deck. We're like, "Maybe it's coming from there, kinda come down into the stadium. Is it gonna come from the hitting facility?" And then, like, right after the national anthem, they you could see I didn't see anything from the backside, obviously, because I was in the stadium. I haven't seen any pictures, but they had a way to get up on top of the batter's eye, I guess. I don't know if it was
Right.
a crane or a giant ladder, but you could see them kinda pop out from up behind and, put the crate up, and then, she flew. She flew, right
She
on
flew real good.
kind of a straight the eagle flew good. She flew straight from the batter's eye and did just a little kinda circle right before the net behind home plate, and landed right there in front of home plate. So it was pretty cool. It was kind of it reminded me very similar of kind of what used to happen during that first season
Yeah.
of the Eagle flight, where it's just a straight shot while we're trying to figure this thing out. Um, and I did get nervous about the net because she got really close to the net, and I was like, if her talons get caught, this is not going to be good. And I actually had one of the, groomsmen in this bachelor party that, we were part of. I did not know until this weekend. He said that he had been to the Auburn game when, I don't know which Tiger it was, but when Tiger, hit the one of the boxes.
That was actually
And
Spirit.
so Spirit, thank you. See,
Yes.
I knew you would correct me there. When Spirit hit the box. And so he was like, I don't have a good track record. He was like, if something goes wrong, this is on me. And so when she got close to that net, I was like, oh no, this is not good. But she did great. She flew flawlessly, and it was very impressive and very cool to see. I'm wondering
Mhm.
how more often we're going to be able to do this.
Yeah. I think probably this was a good benchmark to see how
Yeah.
successful it's gonna be. You know, there's a part of me when I saw the net portion come up, and I think we all kind of, kinda held our breath for a
Hmm.
second there. It did look like they had worked on that a little bit. I maybe not, maybe it was just they were kinda hoping. I shouldn't say that. I know the level of dedication and
Yeah.
work it goes into
Right.
training birds, and let me just tell you, we don't have time here in this short segment to cover all that. Again, we always reference this, maybe another day when we need some stuff to talk about, but the level of work it takes to help a bird learn its cues, where to fly to, and all that kind of, and to trace on a lure, the thing that they spin around and things like that. It's a lot. These birds are smart too. Well, most of them are smart. I will tell you this, and let me just say this. I say this from personal experience, and I also say this from things that I'm told. This is not a statement of fact about our particular birds. Could carry over into that. Bald eagles have a tendency to not be the wisest of the eagles. And so it's not a shock that Spirit has flown out of the stadium and come back. That's always good though, but kind of scared us. Scraped his talons against the glass in the football stadium. So when I saw Independence come out, I just not trying to be prejudiced toward bald eagles because we love them. They're our nation's,
Of
a
course. Yeah.
symbol, patriotic over here. But I kind of said, "All right, here we go. This is what we like rolling the dice here a little bit." But again, you just can't doubt, obviously, the birds themselves, but the training that goes in with the caretakers and those that work at the Auburn Raptor Center, and did a great job.
Yeah.
So, all that being said, any fears, they weren't warranted because it went off
Okay.
without hitch.
Let me ask you something, and this is a small tangent, but I
Love
think I
tan.
know which way you're going to lean here. Um, preference. My first question: preference of Auburn's use of the golden eagle versus the bald eagle.
I mean,
Your personal preference.
it has nothing to do with what I just said about bald eagles, but because I
Correct.
think,
Yeah.
bald eagles look majestic. Because they just kind of stick out a little bit more with their quote
Of
unquote
course.
bald
Yeah.
head. But golden eagles, I mean, because that's
Yes.
was the first eagle. But these are birds that they have to work with and figure out who's the best option for them to do so. Also, these are birds that are rehabilitated, can't go back into the
Hmm.
wild. So there may not be a golden eagle that once some others retire that are available. But we've got Aria now and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
really
Right.
who is learning all of this, what they need to accomplish. And look, if Andrew Hopkins, who I think is in charge over there now, is seeing this, I'm sorry, I'm butchering this. And he's probably like screaming, that's not how it works. I know. I've been out of the bird world for a little bit, and I'm probably like not using all the terminology correctly. But I prefer the Golden Eagles just because of nostalgia. And that's really
Yeah.
the only reason for that.
No, we're
Uh,
in the same boat there. I was just curious.
and kind of some, I guess, final thoughts about this. So when I was thinking through this, I thought, well, higher the better. Parking garage makes a lot of sense. It gets a little
Hmm.
rowdy up there in the parking garage with AUPPL and all of his crew up there. Nope, it's not a statement against them. Just it is a little lively up there. So I don't know if that, but you think they do this from the stadium
Oh
walkways? That's
yeah.
pretty rowdy up there too. So it's like, well, it's basically what they're used to at that point. I think that's probably the best place. When Clint and Autumn and his wife were talking, we talked that the what do you call it, the big wall? What did you call it?
The batter's eye. Yep.
Batter's eye. But I thought maybe there's some buildings further back behind that were even taller. That would be a bigger, and it's more distance. But I thought maybe that's a better setup. Who knows? This was
I
run
I think
one.
they could have just opened somebody's window from the South Donahue dorms and just, I mean, let somebody have the honor of letting the bird fly out your window. I think that would have been pretty good. But
I think
all in
that,
all,
yeah.
it led to 2 wins over the number 1 team in the country. So I say we do it as many times as we want.
Hey, look, if it's gonna happen, it happens against the number one team.
That's
And
right.
boy, we're undefeated when a bird flies. So that's all I'm saying. If there's anything else that you need to have as this should happen again, folks, Raptor Center,
That's right.
Auburn Athletics people, we're 1-0 when the bird flies against number one teams. Let's do this again. It went
Yes.
great. And obviously, you want to take your time and train with this. This was a good first run at this. And who knows what else they might do in the future with the Eagles. But obviously, we want to make sure that they're taken care of, and this is done the right way. But all in all, great response, great excitement around that, and it went great overall. Let's talk about our other big topic tonight, something that we've
Mhm.
been putting off for quite some time. Because we knew a lot of things were going to start rolling, right? Or at least we had an idea that the transfer portal for the spring football, especially, had already closed and opened in a sense. Closed in the sense people could enter it, but also had opened up for people who had already entered to start visiting Auburn, to start considering whether they wanted to be here or not. So a lot of people have been asking us to give our thoughts on that, and that's kind of why we've been holding off on the Auburn Experience show. We've been talking about it on our other live streams and things like that, but here, this is our take on it. So let me open us up with this to give you, at least for football, a quick picture of just the spring portion of it. So this is everybody who has left and now entered into being part of the Auburn football team. Tavares Dawson, wide receiver, has left and since gone to Colorado. Jeffrey Emba left and gone to Purdue. Desmond Tisdale, still undecided, has left Auburn, though. Powell Gordon is still not decided. He's got a few people he's thinking about, according to this website, but has left Auburn. And also, you've got Craig McDonald, who has gone to Minnesota. I'm going to butcher his name, so I apologize. Tobechi Okole, I think is how you say it. undecided, has left Auburn. And a big surprise, honestly, for me, Dylan Brooks, edge rusher, left Auburn, has not decided somewhere to go as of the show. And then Landon King has also, wide receiver, decided to go into the portal, has not decided yet. But the big one, and maybe let's start here before we talk about who has come to Auburn. TJ Finley has left Auburn, but he will leave, provided he follows through with what he said he was going to do, as a graduate. So to me, if you're going to leave Auburn, this is the way you do it. And this is not a statement for or against him as a good option at quarterback. I just love when guys, if you have to leave, if you need to take an opportunity to do something better for yourself, or you feel it's the better choice, leave as a graduate if you can. That's like the ideal scenario for me. So I don't know about you, how you feel about it, but for me, Austin, I'm super proud that he leaves with that. Will leave this summer with that Auburn diploma in hand.
Yeah, no, good for him. And this being graduation weekend, I don't know what his degree was in, and I don't know when he would presumably walk for graduation, but sounds like that is his plan. And I think that is probably the easiest way for him to be able to play somewhere else next year. So
Yep.
good for him. And all those who graduated from, student
Yep.
athletes
Not
this
just him.
weekend, whether they're heading out or staying another year at Auburn or entering the workforce. So um, good for him. And yeah, I mean, I think anytime you can get a degree from Auburn, I know you and I are relatively close to Auburn, and so but the Auburn University degree holds a lot of weight in a lot of places around this country and around this world. So good for him to have that in hand, um, and good for him to be able to say he has that forever.
And you act like you aren't within the backyard of Auburn. Like you say, we're fairly
I was,
close to Auburn.
I
Like
was
you're
trying
not
to
in
be nice.
the. Yeah, I appreciate you softening the blow to remind me continuously that I'm far enough away where I can make the trip if I want to on this weekend, but it's still quite a haul just for a short moment. So thank you for continuing to jab that in there, even subtly. I
You're so
appreciate.
welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Continuing on the portal discussion here, I didn't mention Colby Smith, offensive lineman, also into the portal, not decided yet. So that is everybody from the spring. Don't forget that there's been people since that point, or excuse me, before that point, who have already gone in and gone somewhere else. And there's probably people after this discussion that will be part of that equation too, at least in terms of where they're going to end up going outside of Auburn. But now let's talk about the good stuff, what we've all been waiting on, the big decisions, people deciding to come be at Auburn. And within 1 week, Austin,
Woo!
not one, not two, but three decide to come be part of this team. And let's just say this, two of them from Power 5 programs, two of them which were from pretty decent programs too. At least, they're usually in the hunt somewhere in the top 25, one in particular. But first, defensive end, edge, linebacker, whatever you want to categorize him as, Jalen McLeod comes to
Hmm.
Auburn. Quarterback from Michigan State, almost at Eastern Michigan for some reason, I guess because they're both green. Michigan State, Peyton Thorne, and wide receiver from Ohio State, Caleb Burton. We've got videos out here on the channel if you want some breakdown information about that. But Austin, I will open the floor for you first. Your thoughts on your three new additions to the Auburn football team so far.
Yeah, how about that? Definitely all three different positions, all three positions of need that this coaching staff has said we need to add people at these positions
Yep.
for competition's sake, to help us immediately, all the things. So check, check, check. Really great for each of those guys to be joining Auburn. Each of them, I think, will be able to contribute, you know, whether it's immediately or in the future. The big one, obviously, is Peyton Thorne. Peyton Thorne, a 2-year starter at Michigan State, um, and has 2 years of eligibility left. A very experienced quarterback in a Power Five conference, has played in big games, big stadiums, and big on the big time stages. So when Peyton Thorne entered the portal, it seemed like everybody kind of knew something like, okay,
Yeah.
this is someone that Coach Freeze and the staff has been waiting on to see if they're going to hop in. Everyone kind of laughed because another option, presumed to be Casey Thompson, he entered right around the same time, and it was right after the soundbite of on the ambush tour. Coach Free saying maybe there's someone else popping in a day or two. Sounds like these guys kind of know what they're doing. Let's just remember that every now and then.
Just a little
Um,
bit.
so so Peyton Thorne seems to be the guy that staff has a lot of hope in might be able to come in and either push Robbie Ashford or Holden Geriner or to win the job outright. And so I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are expecting him to go ahead and win the job given his experience and his accolades of his own. I think that's definitely going to be a competition to watch. And, Robbie Ashford's one of his first public comments was iron sharpens iron. So he's ready to
Yes.
compete as well. That should make everybody happy because the more competition, the better. If it does end up being Peyton Thorne, then he's been pushed by Robbie Ashford. If it does end up being Robbie
Yeah.
Ashford, uh, regardless of what your opinion is right now, that means he won the job. So
Mhm.
um, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Burton. I think he's, didn't get to play a lot last year during his freshman season, but um, has a lot of ability and is going to be at Auburn for the next 4 years,
Right.
max. So um, that's a position that Auburn desperately needs some help. And then Jalen McLeod, an edge rusher, we need somebody to get to the quarterback and stop the run. So I'm excited about all three of those
Yes.
additions. I think they're all going to help us, and it sounds like there might be some more on the way too in those positions and others. So a great week for the portal and for Auburn football.
Yeah, I love everything that you said there, and I love that you brought up that Robbie first comments that he made, obviously clearly in relation to the news because it was minutes after that. Is iron sharpens iron, and that is exactly what I wanted to see out of Robbie. No matter how this shakes out, it's no secret. Robbie was kind of, at least publicly, perception wise, in some people's minds, the second choice in quarterback since he got here until he earned it during the season and, showed a lot of talent and promise. Still rough edges, but who doesn't still have rough edges in anything, sports and otherwise, and can always get better. But TJ's gone. So you got to fill the role. The
Yeah.
question is, do you just find a space filler or do you find someone that can come in and make everybody else better? And Peyton Thorne, I think, is going to be able to do that. Now, look, we're not going to sit here and mince words and act like if you were not advocating for a gambling or anything like that, but if you do that sort of thing, you probably put money on Peyton Thorne being the starter. It's not a given, though. And even if that's the case, you're going to tell me Hugh Freeze doesn't see that athlete and Robbie Ashford sitting on the sideline and keep him there? That's stupid.
Mm,
He's going to
yeah.
utilize him some way, still as a quarterback, I'm sure, and still be the future, even if that scenario plays out that way. So I feel much better about the quarterback situation. I also feel much better, as you said, about the edge rusher position because you lost Colby Wooden, you lost Derek Hall, you lost Dylan Brooks, who was going to be the future there. We just talked about that in the losses in the portal. And this guy, he's only going to be here. I think he's got 1 year technically, but could use a COVID year if he wanted to.
I can't keep up. I'm ready for the
It's
COVID years to go. I mean, we got guys playing 7, 8 years in college, and it's normal. I'm over it.
I listen. I think with Caleb Burton to kind of tie him in here too. I think he would not be eligible for this COVID year. I think we're close
Oh, thank
to
goodness.
getting out of that window where everybody who was here got a COVID year. Look, do I love being able to keep people, especially ones that we really need around for an extra year than we normally would? Sure. But when you do this stuff, you talk about these things, it's hard to keep track of all this thing because then you're like,
Oh, it's
he's
terrible.
got this much eligibility. I'm like, you keep track of it all. Like it's
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough. So yeah, that's my gripe for today. That's what grinds my gears is having to keep track of eligibility in the COVID year era. But having Jalen McLeod come in and obviously provide depth, but going to play and then build up the future, give those guys that have just come in at the edge position to build up time. And then you've got a guy in wide receiver who can likely be here if he chooses to be so for a while and maybe become a star here. He was highly regarded during the recruiting
Mm,
process. So if you want to talk about patience paying off, we talked a lot about it at the start of the show with softball and what we're seeing them build to over several seasons. Talk about patience on the portal getting started for Auburn football. I think it's paid off and is still going to continue to pay off in some other areas too. Maybe some related areas we've already talked about, not quarterback. I think we're done, but it's a good start to the transfer portal. Thus why we waited to talk about it because we wanted to be able to talk about the greatness all in one big swoop. So if I had to get one prediction from you, sir, for kind of last thoughts here, what's the next position to commit from the transfer portal to Auburn football?
I think you're going to see a couple more receivers coming
Couple.
through here. I think a couple are going to keep coming. I think that's a position Auburn needs some depth at, and some guys who do some different kind of things. So, and I mean, like you mentioned in the losses, we've Landon King and Tavares Dawson have left. That's two spots that you've already lost receivers anyway, whether you're looking for depth
Yep.
or for starters. So, um, I think my guess would be receivers. I'm not
Yep.
gonna bet on anything. That seems to be a poor choice to do around here these days. But I'm just gonna do I'm gonna do receivers. I don't know. I don't want to get any trouble on betting for stuff. That's for the other half of the state. But just receivers is where I'm gonna go.
You found a way to work our pre-show comments into that. And I am so
Took
proud of you
took
for
me
that.
almost the whole episode, but I got there.
Yeah, I could see you like the wheels turning throughout the, but you figured out how to work bets. And I was ashamed that you didn't work a certain documentary into it as well, but we'll leave that
It's a little
for
tougher.
another.
Yeah.
Thinking about you across the state, boys. Not saying that we're reveling in a little bit of displeasure for you right now, but okay. We'll just leave it there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the Auburn Experience. On your way out, if you want to keep up to date with me, you can follow me at Kyle Loomis24 on Twitter. Austin, where can they find you?
At Austin G Scott for plenty of pictures and commentary of Twins and Auburn athletics.
I mean, all sounds like good things to me. So we'll be back together again on episode 34, but it won't be as episode 35, but it won't be as good as episode 34, the GOAT.
That's
And I
right.
thank you, the GOAT, Austin, for joining me for this particular episode. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right, we're clear. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're going to let Austin skedaddle and go get some sleep. And I'll hang around a little bit with everybody here. So, Austin, as always, great to see you.
Thank you, my friend. We'll see you guys next time. War Eagle.
War Eagle. All right, everybody, you know the drill. Most of you that have been here for a while, we move into kind of like a mini Wednesday night show. It's just me and you. So no call-ins tonight, but we would love to take any comments and questions that you have about things that we talked about here, things that we didn't mention. It's a short show, so we can't mention everything, Auburn, but we can talk about some things off the cuff here. So if you've got that, please do. Try not to get all choked up again like I did during the show, apparently. Please do post those now. One thing I would like to make you aware of before we get too far, and we'll remind you at the end too. If you can, if you are someone who likes to consume as much content here at E2C Network, make sure you stay to the end of the video, or if you can't, come back and go to the end. It should take you to the next watch page on here, or you can just find it on our YouTube page for our next live stream. It's going to be Tuesday night after the Samford game, where we're going to talk about this LSU weekend, Samford, and look ahead to Ole Miss. Would love to see some of your smiling faces there live, especially. So you can hit the like button. You can hit the notify me bell button. And thank you so much to so many of you that already did that this week for this particular show. Helped out a lot. And keep it up. I mean, I know it seems like a small gesture to do, and maybe it doesn't make that big of a difference, but I promise it does. So thank you guys so much that did that. Thank you so much for the kind words. We always appreciate having an audience that likes what we do here. Let's see here. We've been ranked pretty badly for our position. Are you talking about wide receivers? Number 63 overall isn't pretty. Or are we talking about something different here? I'm trying to get the context of what we're talking about here. You're going to watch today's game over again? Well, it'd be a good one. This is a weekend where you're probably like, yeah, I want to kind of rewatch a lot of these highlights and things like a lot of offense. It was a fun week overall. Kevlar says, great week for Auburn football, baseball, even softball. I'm a little concerned for basketball, though things are going slow there. Yeah, look, I think that's the perception, and that reason why we didn't really talk about basketball in that, because it didn't really fit, because we're still holding on so many things. But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that in coming weeks, and we'll probably have a separate conversation about transfer portal for basketball too, just because it's big enough to cover a whole segment. Yeah, with Tyron Lawrence, Vanderbilt potentially going G League, with Matthew Cleveland deciding to go to Miami today. Everybody develops their narrative of, well, we did this and that caused this guy not to want to come here. We don't know that. Does it seem to line up that way? Sure. But just because you think it's going slow, may I remind you, and I'm not just picking on Kevlar here, but just the general consensus and idea that I've seen floating around. This is the same stuff that was being said when Auburn football was missing on targets left and right to start off the transfer portal, before spring and now into spring. And look what happened. We just painted the picture for you how good they are doing right now. Sometimes it's about patience. And a lot of times, if you're patient, it gets paid off. Now, I'm not saying that we aren't without fault, and maybe we did not play some things the right way. We won't know until we actually get to this season. I think we do need to try to hope that Janai and both Jalen officially come back. Now, it looks like Janai is going a little bit further in the draft, or the process of the draft, which gets a little scary. But hopefully he will come back for 1 year of refinement and have himself a good year, really, really good year, more than he even did this year, and set himself up for a nice selection in the draft next year. Maybe. Obviously, he's got to come out and do the work, but I think he's talented enough. If he's already getting enough looks in the draft, imagine what he can do with 1 more year. I don't know him, and I don't have his ear, so I can't say these things to him, but yeah. This was earlier in the show. In light of the events that have happened at Bama recently, I just want to say I'm super proud to be an Auburn fan. I'm so glad that my dad chose Auburn all those years ago. True, but you know me, I'm going to play the opposite side of this too. Now, we've had some regards to important and non-important things too, some low points, even recently too. We can get into whether allegations and things were true and stuff like that, but everybody goes through their low points, and Alabama fans had fun at our expense during those times, and we have a little fun at their expense during this time. When it becomes malicious and stuff like that is when we get a little overboard, but it is nice to sit back and watch your hated rival struggle a little bit in some areas and then watch us doing all right. We're doing all right now. Not too bad. Not too much to complain about for me on my end. Hey, I'd love to know, anybody watching, do you have a graduate of Auburn, like new graduate, or do you know somebody in your family circle of friends and what they graduated with? I've always wanted to do some type of video podcast segment about, or just like social media posts about who graduated and what they graduated from, like schools and degrees and stuff like that, because I think it's always fun to kind of throw some of that stuff in there to see who we're sending out into the world. Auburn's known for veterinarian school, architecture, engineering, that area of science, known for lots of things. I mean, they have a really good nursing program. I think they've got a good biological sciences program. But I think, when most people think of Auburn, they think of vet and engineer and stuff like that. So that's what you usually hear, is a lot of vet, a lot of engineer or architecture. Be interested to see who else knows anybody that has someone who recently just graduated, because would like to feature that in some way if we could. What else? Anything else on you guys' minds tonight that you'd particularly like to mention on this show? I'm trying to think of other things. We didn't really talk about it. We hinted at it in the baseball War Eagle flight discussion of the LSU guy. I think his name is, I'll give him some screen time here, airtime here. It's a playoff of Brian Kelly. Crying Belly, but it's not spelled like crying, but we all made fun with that. I didn't watch the full exchange, but there was a lot of crying going on, it seemed like, about things that may or may not have been said from free fans there. And I would actually love to have a legitimate, not a social media measuring contest, so to speak, with him about the good and bad of both fan bases, and tell him, so are you proud of these particular instances that I personally and my wife have had? I don't want to say, when I use the term assault, I don't want to say act like we were in some big issue, but there were some people that would take what we ran into with some LSU fans as assault. And I don't want to make light of that in any way, but we've had some really bad run-ins with some LSU fans. So I think what we always miss, us included, in those type of moments is that our fan base is also capable of doing some of those things that we're crying about. But there was a lot of crying. I know no college is perfect, but I feel like overall Auburn scandals haven't been quite as bad recently anyway. But like you said, we all go through it. Well, that's the great thing. If you recognize that we're all human and we make mistakes, it's not an excuse. That's actually a call to action. Recognizing that you're imperfect, that you need something else to align your life to guide you and to have an example to work towards, so that those opportunities to fall in those mistakes aren't as bad. And yeah, so nobody's perfect. We all have our ups and down times, but it's good to be an Auburn Tiger right now. And isn't that funny to say, in a time when Auburn sports is not at its finest, in a time when Auburn sports, especially football and basketball to some degree, most people would say, I think, underperformed. I would say also, in a lot of people's eyes, and I say this loosely, it's not meant to diminish what they accomplished or what they tried to accomplish this season in any way. Gymnastics, I think, underperformed a little bit. Soccer probably underperformed a little bit too. It feels like, volleyball, women's basketball, softball now, and baseball is really what's holding us all together. I think equestrian's up there as well. And then some of the sports we don't talk a lot about, golf, tennis, track and field. Again, I say this all the time, and I know y'all are like, whatever, Kyle. If y'all are not paying attention to the track and field program right now, you need to be. There's some special stuff going on there. I'm not talking national championship stuff, but I'm talking we're in the conversation we're just in a conversation, which we haven't been in a lot. So it's a good time sports wise if you look at all the big wide scope of everything that is Auburn. But if you look at the big attention getters, it's a down year in some people's eyes. And even in a year like that, we are still special. We can still find special things about being part of the Auburn family. Apparently he got booed by a few people when he walked at graduation. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. This is Michigan State fans confuse me. They didn't like Thorne, but are crying because he left. Look, there are people, it's kind of like I said earlier, there are people that were celebrating TJ decided to leave. In my eyes, that's no better, whether it's on social media or at a graduation. So again, we all do it. Let's not act like we're better, but it is sad that he's leaving as a graduate, right? So he graduated. To me, that's I'm proud of that. Somebody chose to finish their degree at your school and accomplish things while he were there. Did TJ accomplish a lot of things? No, but he did keep us from having Georgia State loss on a resume. He almost won the Iron Bowl while he was hurt. He deserves at least the respect of being an Auburn alumni, hopefully soon. And it's sad that might be the case if that was true with Thorne. Fortunately, sports sometimes makes us all do things that we shouldn't do. That's pretty bad. That shows us that sports for us, particularly if that's you or whoever we're talking about, is not in the right place. Caleb Burton's got 4 more years to play at Auburn. Yes, he does. It's the great thing, and I think that's what we were talking about in our transfer portal discussion. The great thing about the first 3 gets is you've got a guy who's going to be here for a short amount of time at a defensive end, edge position, and going to fill a role quite nicely for us in that time. You got a similar situation at quarterback if he wins the job, but feels like if he is that thing that's been missing at that position, it really kickstarts your program in a way that you didn't think it could. And then you've got what is essentially a future builder with this wide receiver position. You know, we've been talking about it for years. We've been waiting, hoping, wishing that one of these guys that we know are talented on this team would just step up. Now, much like with the quarterback situation, a lot has not been working in their favor in terms of helping the quarterbacks be successful. Offensive line, you know, the storylines we could go back through. But we've been waiting for a lot of these guys that have been here for a while to become the guy at wide receiver, and it just hasn't happened yet. So maybe this can be another new crop of guys that are ready to seize that moment when their time comes, whenever that is, this season or subsequent seasons. I may be stepping out on a limb here. Probably going to fall flat on my face because of it later on down the line. But I think wide receivers this year, if the offensive line plays better, if our quarterback play, whoever it is, steps up a notch, that they're going to show that they're being slept on a lot. Especially Tavares Johnson, especially Coy Moore, especially Camden Brown, especially Malcolm Johnson. If I don't know what his injury status is, but I think there's a good group there that could be a lot more successful than we think they are. So we'll see. Okay, let's do this. Final comments, questions, derogatory rebuttals. Post them right now in the chat. If you're watching live, would love to hear from you about anything else that you want to hit on the end here. But let me go ahead and do this part. Again, please stay after the show. Go to it'll take you directly to that next up page, and it'll be our next scheduled live stream for the baseball. Even if you're not a baseball fan, if you don't think you can be there live, do us the big favor of smashing the like button on that page and hitting the notify me bell. Even if you're not a big baseball fan, come join us. It's always good to be together. So we'd love to have you there right after the Samford game, which will probably be between 9:30 and 10 Eastern time on Tuesday night. You could be a subscriber if you want to. We'd love to have you on this journey with us. You could be a channel member for $1 a month. You could also be a Booster Club member for $1 a month and other tiers going up. Would love to have you be able to support us in that way. We are mainly fan supported right now, and we like it like that. If that continues to grow, we can continue to do a lot with that. So thank you guys for those of you that can do that. But even if you can't, we appreciate you being here, supporting us in the way that you can by watching, smashing the like button, and share with a friend. That's the big thing. We just surpassed 3,000 followers on Facebook. So we'll be making a post about that this week. And we are trying to get Instagram to 1,000. We are sitting at like 902, 903 right now. Still a good bit of ways off, but would like to get that before the summer's out because there are some big things that come there. So if you can, follow us on Instagram. That'd be a huge, huge help. All right, I'm done plugging right now. Anything else that you guys want to hit? Said, don't forget Mardner. I'm not forgetting Mardner in that equation. It's just he's new, right? We don't know how he's going to fit into the equation. Big body, big frame. You would think he's going to be a big target. But I think we've got some guys here, too, that are already ready for that. That role. Camden Brown. Excuse me. Yeah. And when I say earlier that I think that the wide receivers could be being slept on a little bit, Mardner's part of that equation too. So that's a good point to bring up overall. All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me here on the last part of the show. Thank you all for those of you who are here during the live stream. If you want to listen to the episode again, it'll be up on audio podcast at midnight, essentially, and it'll be on the second YouTube channel we have. These description links are where you need to. All these things we talk about are down there. You can go and have that just to listen to here on YouTube as a podcast if you want to as well. That'll all be up. We'll do this again next week. Would love to have you here with us. So make it part of your weekly routine. But otherwise, I hope to see you on Tuesday night for our Auburn baseball midweek chat after the Sanford game. Thank you guys. And as always, I appreciate you being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until I get to talk to you again, War Eagle.